Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today again, we're going to be looking at Gotham Knights, which is something that is a very important game right now for the DC fans out there. And I wanted to quickly mention that my coverage has been more of a coverage of a lot of skepticism and, in my opinion, some measure of criticism, because I don't want to find myself in another Cyberpunk 2077 situation. Now, for those of you who know, Cyberpunk 2077 came out in a really poor state, and this was one of the most hyped games of basically the last 4 or 5 years. And after everything, after all of the sneak reveals, after all of the internal demos that were done, remember in E3 when they did that one demo that was only open to journalists and specific people, where a developer was actually playing the game, it ended up being that we were not going to be getting that quality of a game on every platform, to the point that it was taken off the PlayStation Store. That is very interesting. Now, for those of you who remember Batman Arkham Knight, when it came out on PC, it had a lot of issues. I don't know if the performance was as bad as Cyberpunk 2077, but, Warner Brothers Games had to take some really interesting extra measures to make sure that this game, was not basically an embarrassment to everything that the development team had worked on. And it can happen to anyone. This is something that I recognize because, I've been having some discussions here on the channel. There's one of my audience members that constantly tells me that I'm always giving Gotham Knights a hard time, and I never am, trying to give the game any, positive light or any slack. And the truth is, it doesn't really matter whether or not I give the game any positive slack. What matters or not is that the game comes out to be very good. And at the end of the day, too, it really does matter that we don't buy into some random kind of hype, because I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to be somebody who spreads disappointment. Instead, I would love myself as a content creator to bring to you guys, coverage that is fair and balanced, and coverage that really does set our expectations in a realistic state. Now, let me tell you why. When did Gotham Knights start its development process? The answer to that is we don't really know. But if we throw back and say, when did Patrick Redding get to the Warner Brothers Games Montreal studio? When did he move? And Patrick Redding is the creative director of the game, by the way. He moved there somewhere around 2014. Now, we don't know if the very first game he moved in to start working on was Gotham Knights, but if you think about it, from 2014 to 2022 is basically 7 years, if not 8 years. So whatever this game had been, being worked on, or whatever technology, whatever game engine, whatever process had been used to, be in this game's development process, are processes that are almost a decade old, or maybe even on a very, I would say lenient side, half a decade old. So even if we say they started the game around 5 years ago in its development. So with all of that in mind, you really have to ask yourself, by the time this game comes out in 2022, what are we going to be seeing? How, is this game going to appeal to the audience that has been basically half a decade or more removed from the paradigm within which this game was actually created? And the answer to that is, it may be really interesting to see. So in light of that, it makes a whole lot of sense that when we're actually looking at Gotham Knights, we have to be very measured, because no studio is beyond making a mistake. No studio is beyond, doing something or delivering something that may not necessarily appeal to their audience. And so this is where, I come in. Now, another thing, too, is I'm looking a lot forward to the DC Fandom event, because, all of that stuff is based on development. All of that stuff is based on some little preferences and all. But at the end of the day, marketing and opening up what this game is about to the community is also an interesting aspect. And since we saw, the reveal last year, I think we're just finally going to be getting something soon this year. We don't even know if we're going to be getting another gameplay sequence. I think we are. I think we will be. But we're also going to be seeing, the main antagonist, the Court of Owls. This is actually confirmed by the executive producer. But other than that, you have to ask yourself, what else is actually going to be presented to us in this DC Fandom event? What are we looking forward to seeing? And these questions continue to linger. And I've also been looking very closely, too, at the Discord page. And to be very honest, even the Discord page has been, somewhat sparse with information as well. And so with all of this, you really have to say, okay, what in the world is going on here? And, what are we, looking forward to? And what are we going to be seeing? So when you put together all of these different concerns, it makes a whole lot of sense that an individual will probably have some concerns. Another thing too that really does make things a little weird is the fact that Warner Brothers Entertainment and Warner Brothers Games have been going through so many changes, so many mergers. The industry and their own production has been really weird. At first we thought Microsoft was going to be buying them. Then we found out that they had a merger with Discovery, and AT&T is probably trying to relinquish some of the entertainment arm of Warner Brothers, and all of this stuff. And there is no way these things aren't going to affect the game that's being made as in terms of Gotham Knights. If you even really want to ask questions and you ask and say, so when Arkham Knight, Arkham City, Arkham Origins were all released and were all brought to the market, who were the people calling the shots? Because it appears that they called the shots the right way. It appears that they made the right investments. It appears that they made the right decisions, getting Rocksteady in there to do a superhero game, getting Warner Brothers Games Montreal to do Arkham Origins, and even getting some other studios in the Warner Brothers pipeline to do games like Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. These were golden opportunities that were leveraged by somebody who was actually a visionary in my mind and was thinking, do we still have people like that are in the top echelons of the corporation? And with everything going on, I don't know. So with all of these, I think it's nice to have a healthy skepticism in looking at this game and not just be a blind fanboy, but to be somebody who wants to be, in a sense, critical as to how I approach everything. Now, here's my hope. My hope is that Gotham Knights actually is a very solid game. My hope is that the game comes out and destroys basically all of the competition out there. I really hope that happens. But with everything so far, I don't think the development team has given us much confidence. I mean, if you have enough confidence, then man, you must be someone who is quite low maintenance than I am. I guess the fault is on me. But that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and change, because I've learned very carefully never to hype any game, never to expect anything that I haven't necessarily seen or experienced myself. And so I don't want to create false expectations. And I sure as heck don't want to create false expectations for my audience members as well. So that's pretty much my stance on this. But I'm sure, when the DC Fandom event is released or is revealed in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be seeing some really cool stuff. But again, I'm not going to go in there with any hype. I'm just going to go in there with a realistic frame of mind. And we'll see what happens. But I want to hear your thoughts, man. Do you really think there's any need for hype, or just measured an analysis and measured critical look on what the Gotham Knights game is going to be? Or do you think, there needs to be some hype and excitement at least, or you're just hyped and excited and it doesn't really matter? Let me know in the comment section. I know we differ in our stance and we differ in our own perceptions. And so I would like to see this, see what it is that you think. And at that point, we'll be able to have a conversation from both perspectives. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys once again. Peace out.